Use the product rule to find the derivative of a function in the form of f of x times g of x times h of x. So in this particular video, we're going to be talking about how to use the product rule when we want to multiply three functions together. So we're going to first just start off by looking at some general functions. We're going to let k of x equal f of x times g of x times h of x. Now the problem we run into with the product rule is that the product rule only works if we have two functions, which means we need to come in here and kind of identify what our two functions are. Now, how do we do that with three of them? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to take our first two functions, f of x times g of x, and we're going to call this our first function. And then we're going to call h of x our second function. And if we were to use the product rule, we would then be able to say that k prime of x is going to equal the derivative of the first times our second plus this time the first times the derivative of our second. Alright, so now as we can see here, this is going to require us to do a little bit of side work, a little bit of scratch work over here to find the derivative of the first function and the derivative of the second function. So let's see, we know that our first function is going to be f of x times g of x. And to find the derivative of the first function, that's just going to be our normal power rule. Derivative of the first times the second plus the first times the derivative of the second. And let's see, our second function, we said, is going to be h of x. And then finding the derivative of this is super easy. It is just h prime of x. Alright, so now we can substitute those in. And let's see, what are we going to get? We are going to get f prime of x times g of x plus f of x times g prime of x, and then times our second function, which is h of x, plus our first function, which is f of x times g of x, and then times the derivative of our second function, which is h prime of x. And let me come in and let me fix this first tick mark here, because that's just a mess. And tick mark, there we go. Alright, so now we just have to simplify. So I can take this h of x and I can distribute it to both terms here. And when I do that, that is going to leave us with f prime of x times g of x times h of x plus f of x times g prime of x times h of x plus f of x times g of x times h of x. And there we have it. And let me move this little line here quickly so you guys can see what that is. And there we have it. Our formula for the derivative of the product rule for three functions. And I lied, not yet, not yet. I forgot the prime mark on the h at the end. Now we have the derivative. And see, this derivative is going to look like, oh my goodness, look at all these different functions and derivatives. How am I ever going to remember this? Well, it's actually not that bad, because if we take a look at some patterns, we can see that the first group, we take the derivative of the first function, and we leave the other two alone. Plus, we take the derivative of the middle function, and leave the other two alone. And then finally, we take the derivative of the last function, while leaving the other two alone. So if you can just remember this pattern, it's going to make remembering the formula much simpler. So let's take a look at an example. So here we are told that r of x is equal to the quantity 3x squared plus x plus 3 times the quantity x minus 2 times the quantity 3x, and we're being asked to find the derivative of r. Alright, so we're going to start off. We know that r of x is the combination of three functions. We have f of x, and we have our g of x, and we have our h of x. So we can rewrite r as being f of x. Ooh, that's the highlighter. F of x times g of x times h of x. And then we know from the previous screen with our formula that we're just going to take the derivative of each piece while leaving the other two pieces alone. So let's go ahead and let's do that. So r prime of x is going to be f prime of x times the other two, which is g of x times h of x. And then plus, this time we're going to take the derivative of the middle function. So we're going to have f of x times g prime of x times h of x. And then finally, we're going to take the derivative of the last function. So we'll get f of x times g of x. Let's make that look like an x. And then times h of x. All right, so then all that's left that we have to do is we just have to find the derivatives of our three functions, f of x, g of x, and h of x. So we'll do a little scrap work here on the side. Again, we know that f of x, we said that is 3x squared plus x plus 3. So therefore, the derivative is going to be 6x plus 1. And then moving on to our g of x, we had said that g of x is going to be x minus 2. And the derivative of x minus 2 is just 1. And then finally, h of x we said is equal to 3x. And the derivative of 3x is just going to equal 3. So now we can just throw that all together and see if we need to simplify anything. All right, so let's see. What do we got? We got f prime, which we said was 6x plus 1. Times g of x, which is x minus 2, times h of x, which is 3x, plus f of x, which is 3x squared, plus x plus 3, times g prime, which we said was 1, and then times h, which is 3x. Let's see if I can, I don't think I'm going to be able to squeeze that in there, but we're going to try. So let's see, we know our f of x function is 3x squared plus x plus 3. And let me just kind of shift all these things over, give myself a little bit more room, and g of x, which is x minus 2, times h prime of x, which is 3, and I forgot to put the prime marker up there. All right. So there's a couple things that we can simplify to make this a little bit easier, but we don't have to do a lot of simplification because it's just not super necessary. So the only thing I'm really going to get rid of is I'm just going to get rid of this 1 because we know 1 times anything is 1. So this is going to give us the quantity 6x plus 1 times x minus 2 times 3x plus the quantity 3x squared plus x plus 3 times 3x plus 3x squared plus x plus 3 times x minus 2 times 3 as our r prime. And now for our final example, we are going to find the derivative of k, but this time we want to find the derivative of k when, x equals -2. So we're going to do the same thing as we've done in the previous examples. We'll label this first function f of x. We'll label this second function g of x. And we'll label this third function h of x. All right, so now we can just go ahead and take the derivative of k, since hopefully now we remember the formula. So k prime is going to be f prime times g times h plus. And then we're going to take the derivative of the middle guy. So f times g prime times h. And then we'll take the derivative of the third one. So leaving the f of x alone, leaving the g of x alone, and then we have h prime of x. And this time I'll remember to put the prime mark. All right, so now we're going to see if we can actually evaluate this function without doing the scrap work. So taking the derivatives as we go. So let's see, we can see that the derivative of f, the derivative of x minus 2 is just going to be 1. And then we'll bring the g down, which is 3x and we'll bring the h down, which is 2x squared plus 3x. Plus, let's see, f of x is x minus 2. G prime is the derivative of 3x, which will just be 3. And then we'll bring the h down, x squared plus 3x. Plus, then f of x, x minus 2, times our g of x, which is 3x, times the derivative of h, which is going to be 4x plus 3, because we want to take the derivative of this guy. All right, so there we have it. There's our derivative. But again, we're trying to find the derivative when x equals negative 2. So now we just need to plug negative 2 into our derivative. So we're looking for k prime of negative 2. Now let's see, if we write this all out, we're going to get 1 times 3 times negative 2 times 2 times negative 2 squared plus 3 times negative 2 plus negative 2 minus 2 times 3 times 2 times negative 2 squared plus 3 times negative 2 plus, and the last one, thank goodness, negative 2 minus 2 times 3 times negative 2, and am I going to be able to squeeze this in here? 4 times negative 2 plus 3. All right, and then I'm just going to start throwing all these terms into the calculator. All right, so then when I plug this first term into the calculator, so when I plug this guy into the calculator, I'm going to be left with a negative 12. And then plus. And when I plug this second term into the calculator, I'm going to get negative 24. And then when I plug this third term into the calculator, I'm going to get negative 120. So then when we add all these together, we are going to get a final answer, or a derivative, of k of x at negative 2 of negative 156. All right, folks, that is it. That is using the product rule to find the derivative of a function in the form of f of x times g of x times h of x.